Hello, Mary McCracken, Club Doctor at Northampton Town Football Club. Again, we're reaching out to our loyal supporters and fans to try and see if we can help each other through this difficult time. It's good to see that many of you are actually increasing your activity during this lockdown period, but I'm also hearing that some of you are picking up minor injuries that you've not experienced before, so let's nail down some of the commoner conditions. One of these in particular is a pain that affects the bottom of your foot. It may have come on recently, and it feels to be getting a little bit worse. Here to help me today is Michael Bolger, who's the head of Academy Sports Science and Medicine at Northampton Town Football Club. Hello, Michael, and over to you.
Thanks for that, Mary, and thanks for having me here today. So just generally in terms of foot or heel pain, it's very, very common. So one of the main common issues with it is something called plantar fasciitis, which is an inflammation or a degeneration of the soft tissue of the sole of the feet. So that soft tissue runs from the heel bone towards the toes. And it's a very common issue that we have. Sometimes we see that more in a population where we've started to increase maybe our exercise, or so walking or maybe running, or an increase in the load that we're putting through it. We can also see that with a population where we have occupations where we stand for long periods of time, so maybe teachers standing for long periods of the day, or population maybe working in factories, or generally on their feet for quite a long period of time. So generally a lot of time with this, people complain of some symptoms, pain in around the heel and on the arch of the foot, which is hugely common, and sometimes people have described that as walking on a pebble, or they'll describe it as a pebble in their shoe, which is really quite irritating, kind of that nagging, irritating pain. Sometimes can be quite sharp, and generally with this, it can slowly, bit by bit, over weeks and months, slowly start to build up. And again, there's multiple reasons for that, as I was saying.
So if I've got this right, it's not something that comes on suddenly like a strain or a sprain, but you kind of notice it, and it's building up, and it's getting worse, and it's becoming a nuisance when you run or walk even. So tell me, when do you feel it worst?
So generally with this, it's normally felt worse in the morning time, after a period of sleep or inactivity. It's also felt a period of time where generally we're potentially in one position for a long time. So sometimes with a lot of people doing a lot more desk work and that kind of thing, or maybe sitting watching the TV, watching a match, for 45 minutes, an hour onwards, then they go to get up, they feel it for the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then once the area starts to heat up, there's a little bit better blood flow, it tends to start to settle down a little bit more.
Aha! So is there anything we can do about this?
Yeah, absolutely there is. There's lots of different things we can do. Now, some things work better for others. Everyone is different, and we're all built that little bit differently. The main thing with this, with plantar fasciitis, is that we manage it well. It can hang around for a little while, but the main thing is that we do manage it well, and that we try to prevent all of those flare-ups. So the first thing would be our load management, and what I mean by that is if we've started, the weather's getting better, we're starting to walk for maybe 30, 40, 50 minutes more than what we normally do, or running or whatever it is. It's just that we have to kind of rein that in a little bit more, do a little bit less on that, and just so the symptoms settle down, and we're not going round in circles with a flare up. Where it settles down, we go out and go do a little bit more because it feels a bit better, and then it's building back up, and we just go around in that circle of flare, which is what we don't want. Other things that work quite well, and the evidence is quite good for building up the strength in and around the area, and for a little bit of light stretching, which works really, really well. So just some gentle exercises like single leg heel raises, or calf raises as some people might know them as. So standing on one foot, you can use the chair in front or the table in front, just for a little bit of support. What you're going to do is basically stand or balance on one foot, and then you're going to lift your heel up nice and slow, hold for 2 seconds at the top, and slowly lower that back down. And what you're aiming to do is do that 12 repetitions, and you're aiming 3 to 4 sets on that. And you want to do it kind of maybe 3 to 4 days a week to begin with. 3 days is probably a good start. Maybe like a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, just so there's some rest days in between, just to slowly build it up. And then as time goes on, we can slowly build all of that up a little bit more, and maybe do it a little bit more frequently once we start to build it up and build up our strength. The other thing that's really good is our stretching, our gentle stretching to begin with. Where we would do a calf stretch. Now, standard calf stretch would be hands on the wall, standing in front, and then you're going into almost a lunge position where the affected foot is behind, and what you're aiming to do is kind of get into that lunge position, lean forward against the wall, and you're pushing that back heel into the ground to get that stretch along your calf.
Fantastic. So, as I understand it, it's not just the bottom of your foot you're looking at, it's all of the stringy bits, the connective tissue that goes from the bottom of your back through your buttocks, down through your calf and your Achilles tendon. All of these, and you need to stretch them all if you're going to improve this pain at the bottom of your foot. Is that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It all works together, and working to stretch and to build up our strength in those areas will only help, because it will help build up and offload our foot, ankle, knees and hips once we're stronger and more flexible in those areas.
What about rubbing the bottom of our foot? Is that going to be useful at all?
Yes, I mean, it's definitely something that you can do. What I find works very well is sometimes people get maybe a water bottle and freeze it. So pop it in the freezer and then rolling that on their bare foot. So just in the arch of their foot, just for a couple of minutes, they find that gives them some good relief on it. So just a bottle of water, or even a plastic cup, half fill it with water, and then you could even do some ice massage with that once it's frozen and out of the freezer.
Oh, fantastic. Any tips on footwear?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of footwear, that can be one of the factors as to what might cause it. Sometimes if our trainers are getting a little bit old and worn, they won't have quite the same supports in the shoe as maybe when they were new. So having a look at that just to see how worn our shoes are, and keeping an eye on that, in particular if we are very active and we like to get out running and do that, your footwear is hugely important. Also in terms of footwear at work, especially if we wear dress shoes to work, and or we're on our feet long periods in the day, they need to be comfortable. What I found with people and our patients that works really well is getting a gel heel insert for them. Now, they only cost a couple of quid, you can get them from all good sport shops and maybe even online, but they'll take up about half the insert of the shoe. They're just like a little jelly insert. And they're really good just to help offload those symptoms and just make it that little bit more comfortable.
Well, thank you, Michael. We've heard some really good tips. Now, if I've understood it rightly, plantar fasciitis is a nuisance, painful condition that develops slowly, and it comes at the bottom of your foot, and you feel it mostly after you've had a rest period and until you've warmed up. But it can get worse. But the good news is that we can actually do something about it. And first of all, you're saying we have to try and avoid the overload that's caused this. And that can be through reducing the activity that's causing it. But that doesn't mean you should give it up. You go to something else that will keep you fit, and try not to put on weight, because that will make things worse. And of course, introduce those rather useful stretch and strengthening exercises that you described so well. So thank you very much. Oh, and we don't forget about the footwear, and perhaps a little gel heel raise, and that would be useful. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, that's absolutely right, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I think our listeners are going to find this really useful. I do hope that you'll come back and give us some more tips another time.
Great stuff. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye for now. And remember, till next time, start smart, stay strong.